Hey guys, Project R here. Welcome back to another video. Today I want to do something a little different. I want to give you guys a guide to buying an SI, or just kind of buying a used car, like a car enthusiast car, especially in today's market. The year it's September of 2022 right now. That also, because things are just insane right now as things are going. You might be watching this future, and it might be worse. I'm sorry. But here we are. This will be mainly about the SI, obviously, because that's what's here next to me, and that's what I'm used to. But this kind of goes for anything until we start getting into more specifics. I'm going to kind of go on an overview of what to look for and how to avoid things quickly. And then when you start getting close to the car, when you see it in person, drive it in person, and just how to get closer up and tell some things. So first of all, we need to recognize that SIs, in particular, and in sports cars, are just that. They're sports cars, and you could argue that the SI isn't one, but I'm going to make the argument that SI is. It doesn't have to be super quick to be one, a sports car, but it's an enthusiast car. It's going to be used in that way. You have to think of it. It's most SIs, unless you're buying the brand new ones. And of course, if you're buying the brand new ones, why are you watching this video? Because that's not what this is about. This is about buying used vehicles. So I'm thinking about buying used SIs. I'm thinking maybe the early 10th gen, sure, but 9th gen and lower. Behind me, we have an 8th gen. This is a 2009 SI, and especially these you got to look out for because there are a lot of things that you need to see. But the owners knew what they were buying, unless you got lucky and you found this from some old lady or old man or just someone that didn't really know and got it passed down. It's an SI, and people know what it is, and it's an enthusiast car that you're made to rev out and bang gears, hit corners, and just do the enthusiast thing, right? It's not meant to be just the boring go-getter car. So you got to be aware of that when looking. And if something, let me just say straight away, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. But the first things we want to see is just straight up first, is just what the car looks like. And don't dismiss a car from the title picture. I'm saying, like, if you're looking on Facebook Marketplace, if the picture looks bad, don't not click on it. Some people just aren't good photographers. Like, I got this car first, even though it was listed for a few days, just because the picture was really bad. The first starting picture was its mismatched fender up front, and it was a really bad photo, so no one really wanted to click on it because it looked bad. So give every car a shot unless it just looks horrible off the get-go. You know, most people say, the saying, don't judge a book by its cover. We'll certainly judge a book by its cover when it comes to cars. If the car looks like shit, don't buy that said car. You're going to be looking for something good. If the car looks bad from the outside, they probably didn't take care of it on the inside or mechanically as well. So that's straight up number one. If the car just looks bad, don't get it. But everyone knows that, and everyone wants their car to look good. Next up is you want to start looking at some more up-close things in the pictures, especially. Just look for kind of hidden things, bumper clips that are saggy, ripples in panels if you can. If like the light fragment's weird, see why. If there's a panel that's miscolored, ask why. Was it an accident? Why is it miscolored? Even if it's slightly off. If it's a slight hue, that means a paint shop might have painted over it, but just didn't paint match it correctly. Look for stuff like that, and just look for bad parts if it's modded at all. Like that horrible fake Mugen wing, for example, that I don't want to take off because there's holes in the trunk, so I'm waiting to get a real one. Just look for stuff like that. If it's modded at all, then you just definitely know the person really knew what it was, so you just got to be extra careful. Look for just not good quality, not well taken care of stuff, especially eBay parts, especially. Thank you, appreciate it. Especially eBay parts like that. Just be careful. If they had more eBay stuff like that around this car, I probably wouldn't have went to go look at it. But kind of going away from the photos, it's passing the test, like even looking up close, does it have all the lug nuts? That's something to look out for. If they're missing a lug nut, what else are they missing? And stuff like that. And next you want to look at the mileage, Especially these cars are getting old. You know, this is like a, what is it, a 13-year-old car now, which is crazy. Look at the mileage. It is important, even though it is a Honda. And I'm talking about my Honda here, my SI, not the other enthusiast cars. If you look at BMWs and it's 190,000, run away. But I mean, 180,000 is getting up high, you know, and I'd be careful with that. Even though it is a Honda and it's a K series and it's reliable, who knows what the people did to it. Just try to get lower than 150, I'd say, unless it's like a good deal and it's higher up, and just please make sure it's okay, especially when you go see it. Just keep going mileage, keep one below 150. I got this at 115,000, which was a steal, and I bought this car for $7,000. Another steal. Just look out for that, please. And then just look at the descriptions. Ask them questions. Don't be afraid to ask. You know, you're the one giving them the money, so just ask the questions. If they don't want to answer the questions, so they're not answering, or they're being an ass about it, leave them. You know, the car's not worth it. There's something not right there. Okay. And then next, get pictures and videos of the car running if you can. Show in-engine pictures if they don't, because a lot of people don't do that. And have a picture of them starting it from a cold start and it just running for a while. And that's when you can finally make the judgment call of like, okay, this is good enough. Let's go see the car. And this is when you start to get more serious, and you're going to have to start looking at it more closely. And this is really when it's going to separate from normal cars to SIs only, because this is where I'm going to get more down and dirty with stuff that you should look out for with SIs when going to see them, especially agents. So let's get into that. So first off, I'm going to be kind of calling out my car a little bit because it does have some problems that will be worked out. So let's get into this. Things that you should look out for, especially if you're looking for an 8th Gen SI, but this is really everything. Especially with these generations of Civics, look out for paint peel. The paint on these cars were horrible, especially up on the hood. You know, this is where, you know, rocks and everything's going to be hitting. Most of this car's paint is pretty decent, but, you know, you're going to be, I have some paint chips here. This is all paint coming off. This isn't just white stuff. And it's actually cracking a little bit. There's something called crow's feet that you can see right there. And that's just the Honda had a paint quality issue. So look for that. And if the person doesn't know about that, kind of use that as a bargain chip. I mean, really, it really is helpful. Look for the yellow headlights and a mismatched fender. And there is a little bit of damage down here. This is the biggest glaring issue, other than the clear coat fade I have on this car. That's on just about every one of these cars. If the car has been re-cleared, then it's worth a lot of money, period. This is the biggest glaring issue. There's no other damage past that, and you want to make sure of that. The past owner hit it with his own truck and just found another fender to put on. The fender's in really good shape, so I just need to go get it painted. I have all the paint and all that stuff, but it was a great bargaining chip to get this car down in price. Something you do want to make sure of, though, is that there was no internal damage. The shock wasn't damaged. There was no internal damage in here that he just covered up with the fender. So you do want to make sure of that. You want to make sure that there's no like horrible peeling. There's no rust underneath the paint, especially with these generations and any Civics in general. It's a big problem. Got a little ding there. Make sure the suspension's good. A lot of these Honda guys like to go nuts, so they like to slam them and then put stock suspension back on. So just kind of give it a little tug, make sure there's no, you know, wobbling, looseness. All the lug nuts are tight. Make sure that there are all the lug nuts. Give the brakes a quick check as well. These brakes are pretty good brakes for a stock car, especially for something like this, but they do heat up very fast if you're driving it hard, since it's a heavier car. And then they take a little while to heat up, I guess, but once they heat up, they do not cool down. There's no cooling to these things. So when they're used hard. So that is something to take note of as well. Otherwise, on the outside, it's all your preference. Like if there's no more hidden damages or anything of that nature that you can't find, then you're kind of golden. Move on into the interior at this point, and then we'll open up the engine compartment as well. And here is where things get important. Don't mind the mess. I apologize. I do not have a floor mat on this side. And let the self-closing doors do their thing, because they will do that. First things first, you really just want to make sure everything's kind of good here. Civics just in general, especially these newer gens, like to crack up on the dash. And I was really lucky. Yeah, excuse the dust. I'm so sorry, guys. Again, I daily this thing. I can't afford to wash it constantly. I wash it once a week. And it's the end of the week now, so I got lucky and it was covered for the last owner covered it, and there's no cracks. Check the dash, make sure everything is working okay. I got the stock system in here, sadly. Just make sure everything's working order. Shift boot's nice. We got a nice cup holder here, a nice little thing here. Make sure the seats are just, I need to shampoo, and for some reason the camera just makes the stains look so much worse. In real life, they don't look that bad, but through the camera, they do. Make sure everything just looks nice and clean. And just make sure the bolstering's good. Like a lot of times the side bolstering likes to wear out, and once that is there, there's metal there, it can hurt. But most importantly, I think there's some things that you should check out. Have the owner give you the keys or whatever and start the car. You want to make sure the two-tier dash system is working correctly. There's lots of times where the electronics don't properly work. Like one common one I see a lot is for the mirrors not adjusting, because they are electric mirrors. And then lastly, the fuel gauge, I've seen a lot of times stop working. It always says it's out of fuel when it's not, so you have to count your mileage, and that's a pain. And so the fuel light will always be on, and the fuel gauge will be down, and then sometimes the temperature doesn't work, and the speed won't work. So you guys just make sure you look for that. Keep an eye for any codes. The codes will be down here, not up there. That's for speed, temperature, fuel, shift light, low fuel range, and blinkers, or turn signals. Down here is where everything else is. It's going to be your lights over here, your cruise control over there. Click the cruise control button when you start it as well to make sure you see that pop up. If not, cruise control does not work. Your check engine lights, stuff like that, will be over here. So keep an eye out for that. If there's a code, ask him what it is. And if he says it's an O2 sensor and it doesn't have an exhaust, really doubt him and ask why, because it shouldn't. These O2 sensors don't go out that often. It's always the reason. If the car says check engine light for O2 sensor, have him prove it. These cars have OBD2, I think, and so they're easily scannable. Go meet them at an O'Reilly's Auto Part parking lot and scan it there, because be suspicious. Even if it has an exhaust, most of the time people like to clear those. I don't like having any lights. I have no lights and all my electronics work. At this point, you're going to want to just kind of go through the gears while you're in it. Make sure you can get through every gear, as I can. There you go. Go through every gear nicely. Sorry, I was going over too much. Getting to reverse as well. Just make sure every gear is easy to get into and works properly, and it's not stuck in any kind of way. So after you've seen all this, it looks good to your needs, you can then head on down there and open up the engine compartment. So here we are in a completely stock engine compartment, and as you can see, it's stock. Only thing I have done at all, period, is I've taken the K20 cover off because I don't want it there. And some things to notice. Just check to make sure there's no apparent oil leaks, or take a whiff as well. Like usually, you meet someone, it would be great if they drove it there, and then you can open the hood and smell. There shouldn't be an overwhelming odor of anything particularly. I mean, of course, it's going to be motor smell. You're going to have oil and other stuff like that, but it shouldn't be like overwhelmingly burnt smelling oil. Then that's some really bad stuff going down, or antifreeze, thinking that you're leaking antifreeze, stuff like that. So take a good whiff. And just look around the valve cover. Valve cover is the main problem where things like to leak. And mine does not have that. And check also if you see those little goop spots, it means that Honda Bond has been applied properly. I've done my valve adjustment recently, and so I did reapply my Honda Bond, and I don't have any oil leaks. I mean, a little bit of like residue of oil, but there's no like, it's not leaking down anything from any sides as well. Everything is nice and clean. And when the car is started and you're hearing it, listen to the valve noise. These K-Series motors have a lot of valve noise. They just tick a lot. Just the way over the Honda, overhead cams work, they tick a lot. But make sure it's not really loud, If it just sounds really loud, then it's either it needs adjusted or it's permanently damaged because they never adjusted it. And something to take notice, look for some mods. Like especially if they say it's stock and you see some stuff that look different than this, then it's not stock. One thing to look at as well is this is where, if my camera could focus, that's where the shift link, like the shift cables are. If that looks different than that, it is an aftermarket one. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that is something to notice. So if they say that there's no mods at all, check that. That is a thing that a lot of people forget to ask. Also, you could feel around underneath the fender here, and the fender liners in here. Make sure there's no holes or anything, because if there is, that can mean they had a cold air intake, and that they put the stock one on, and they forgot to put the fender liner either in or to get a new one, and there's still holes in the fender liner. It's a really good tip a lot of people forget to do is about the fender liner. They forget. This is where the stock airbox goes. If you have a cold air intake, you would need a battery location, so the battery wouldn't even be here. It would go down there. Or if you have a short ram, it would just be sticking there, but it would look a lot different. And then you want to check, if there's a spacer for the throttle body, which there is not. And you could also check if there is a header. It's harder to see, but it is back there if you look hard enough. Just check to see if it looks different. If not, you can try to look underneath, which you can notice. So that's what you want to look for underneath the motor. Check the engine oil as well. Make sure that it's there. It's not milky. It's not like super thick or gross looking. Make sure there's no antifreeze in it especially. And just when he starts it, have it run. Make sure it's not like popping, indicating something like a head gasket, anything like that. A little bit of pops can sometimes be okay, meaning he probably just needs new coil packs or new spark plugs, something of that nature, which you should replace when buying any car that's new to you at all anyway. So check your belts as well. I got a newer belt here as well. I got a new AC compressor as well. Just check all your things, do your due diligence, make sure things look tidy, clean, and not just completely gross. And if there is mods, make sure they look properly done, well maintained, and not just really badly done. Especially if they have a true cold air intake, you do have to redo your coolant. So if they looks like they don't know what they're doing and it's not properly done, you might have a big old bubble in your radiator, meaning you could overheat your car. So just be careful of that. And also, the frame number for your VIN is in there as well, so you could check that as well and make sure the VINs match. And there's a VIN also up here. There's one in the trunk, and there's also one in the door jambs. So check those VIN numbers out as well. So lastly, you finally made sure everything is good. It's passed your test. It's the way it looks is okay with you, the way it sounds, all the electronics works, everything in here checks out, everything looks good. There's not like gallons of empty oil jugs in the back seat. Looked in the trunk, make sure there's no like tons of new parts that they just installed in there as well. Time to take it for a drive. And there is some things that I think you should know. And I was being really specific to like just the 8 gens, and I'm still going to, because this is what it's about. But this is like, there's some things in there that it's more for every SI and just some car enthusiast cars, take it for your drive. And honestly, I would ride passenger for the first few minutes. What I like to do is I like to ride passenger, and then about halfway through when we want to turn around, switch drivers and let me drive if I want to drive, which, I most of the time do. Unless it's just a no-go already, I'll let him drive back, and then I'll say thank you for your time, and I'll leave. But this is when you really need to get into your head. Realize this is important. If I miss something here, I could screw up. So I like to sit in the passenger seat because honestly, I feel a lot more. I'm not focused on trying to drive someone's brand new car, trying to figure out where exactly the clutch engagement is, all the stuff, having to worry about traffic and all that. I could just completely focus on how this car is driving, how it feels, what all the vibrations, all the sounds, everything. I don't have to focus on other cars around me. I could just focus on the experience of the car. You could feel a lot more in your butt, the passenger seat has a lot of benefits. Where is it vibrating? Are the tires balanced? Because this one isn't totally balanced. These tires are not good. Is the shifter going okay? Does it seem smooth? Is there any chattering? Are the suspension bumpy? Is it clunky? Is it doing any of that stuff? Get a feel for it and have him accelerate. Get on it. Make sure he cracks VTEC if it has VTEC. If the car you're driving, if SI, it would. It actually engages. It doesn't just make sound, because sometimes when they're going out, they'll make the sound, but you won't actually feel anything. Especially if it's these later gen SIs, you're gonna feel at least something. It's not gonna be drastic. It's not gonna be some turbo, but you're gonna feel it. If it's the 5th gen SIs, with the D series, you're probably not gonna feel much, but you should feel just a little bump of something. It shouldn't just get louder. So make sure you check that. And then go ahead and drive. And this is where I'm going to get a little bit more into the SI. The 8th Gen SI has a 6-speed LSD transmission. And in 2009 to 2011, the last year the 8th Gen was made, they had a facelift and the transmission was revised. Doesn't mean they fixed this problem completely. But from 2006 to 2008, they definitely had this problem. Make sure you shift it at high RPMs, meaning shift it close to 8 as you can or feel comfortable with, because these had bad synchros a lot of the time in 2nd and 3rd gear, which means they would grind going into 2nd or 3rd, or they would pop out at high RPMs, and you want to check that out, because if it's doing that, you might get away with being able to just replace the master cylinder or the clutch lines, or just more tough fluid, but a lot of times it's just a crutch and you need to rebuild the transmission or buy a new one, which is not a cheap thing to do. So keep in mind, you got to test that out. I made sure I tested that out, even though it's the facelifted version and they don't really have that problem. You still want to make sure, because it's still a thing. And that's with any SI really, but mainly these, because they had that problem from the factory. Hondas are made to rev high and slam gears, so make sure all your synchros are working and it's shifting good. One thing to know with the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th gen, they all have rev hang. Pretty bad. I don't think the 7th gen did, but no one wants the 7th gen. The rev hang's pretty bad. It is pretty bad. So don't think that's the car's fault. If you are shifting and it's feeling sluggish in the shifts, it is because there's a lot of rev hang. So be warned of that. And to be honest, if there isn't, question it. That means it's either a flywheel, or it is tuned, which is a bigger problem in itself if he said it's stock. But if you did want it to be tuned, then you're in luck. But also, that is something to notice. Tuned cars I don't like to buy, because you don't know who tuned it, if they tuned it correctly. I like getting my tunes myself and knowing exactly what it is. So, congratulations. If the car passed all those tests, it did everything you wanted and more, buy it. And if it had some problems that you could overlook, like physical things, like the fender, the clear coat, or some paint peel, try to get the price down. Otherwise, congratulations, guys. You got a new used car or a new SI. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it brings you much reliability, much fun to come. Hope it brings you good reliability, gas mileage, and just tons of fun. It's a great car, good family car. This isn't a review, so I'm not going to go super into that. But congratulations, I hope you got your car. Make sure before you sign over that title, it does say that it's clean title. Unless you know it's already a Savage title, then make sure it's cheaper. Otherwise, yeah. And make sure you don't fall for the trap. Well, rebuilt means it's okay, you know. Anything but clean, it will drop the value. I don't care. Sure, rebuilt's okay, but if you want a track car, sure, I guess, whatever, but I'd stay away from it, you know? Clean title cars are the way to go. Don't fall for the trap of, well, I've dealt with rebuilt title cars my whole life and I'm okay. Just it's a sales tactic. Clean title. All right. So congratulations. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did learn anything about SIs, and what to look out for, and just to keep yourself safe from scammers and people with bad cars, hit the like button. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more from me. I hope to get more videos out. I do apologize. It's been a little slow because it's like I've been really busy with work, and just I haven't been able to do anything to the car yet. But I do apologize. I hope we get some tires very soon. Honda data is, I keep wanting to get it so bad, but it keeps getting pushed farther and farther away. But I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, guys.